Hey everyone, this week we are still learning about volume, and I want to go ahead and give you guys an example problem on the homework sheet. This homework sheet is very similar to last week's in that you need to find the addition equation and the multiplication equation to find the volume. So I wanted to go ahead and work out an example problem for you guys. So let's look at number 1. And when we look at number 1, we see, what do we notice about number 1? Think about it for a minute. When I look at number 1, I notice that we are dealing with feet. We have 2 feet, 2 feet, and 4 feet. So that tells me that our volume is going to deal with feet, like we're dealing with not just units, we're dealing with named units, which are feet. And the units can change from like feet. If you look at number 2, it's centimeters. If you look at number 3, it's inches, okay? But number 1, we are dealing with feet. And with volume, we know that if we're dealing with feet, our answer for volume is going to be feet cubed, or cubic feet. So it may be good to go ahead and write that down. That way you can kind of make sure you don't leave off the unit, because the unit is part of the answer. We need to make sure that we remember that. So now we can look at the actual number of feet. So if we look at the length, we see that we have 4 feet. And then if we look at the width, we see that we have 2 feet. And then if we look at the height and how tall the rectangular prism is, or how many layers we have, we see that we have 2 feet. So that could also mean like we have 2 layers, right? And so looking at addition, okay, if we look at the addition way first, if you try to remember from last week, to find the addition, we find the base first. We always find the base first, and the way we find the base, it is the length times the width. Right? And so if this is our length and this is our width, we're going to replace those with 4 and 2, right? Because our length is 4 and our width is 2. And so when we multiply those together, the base is going to equal 8. And really what that tells us is that there are 8 cubes on the bottom layer, right? There are 8 cubes on this bottom layer. We cannot look and say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cubes. That would be incorrect, right? We have to make sure that we follow the formula. If we don't follow the formula, we may get a little bit mixed up later in the problem. So now that we have the base, right, we know that we have how many layers on this prism. We have 2 layers, right? And so that is also called the height. And now that we know how many layers we have, and we know how many each layer has, or how many unit cubes is in each layer, right? We have 8 in each layer. We're going to do 8 plus 8. And the reason why we would do 8 plus 8 is because that's how many layers we have. We have 1, 2 layers. So we're going to add 8 twice. That means that our addition equation, if you want to write it on the line, which we should because that's where our answer should go, it's going to be 8 plus 8, because we have 8 in the bottom layer, which is the base, and then we have another layer of 8. Okay, so we have a layer of 8 stacked on top of another layer of 8. That's 8 plus 8. And now that we're finished with the addition way to solve for the volume, we're going to move on to the multiplication way. And this equation or formula is going to be volume, or V, equals length times width times height. And if you look at how we solved the addition equation, we started the same way. We start with length times width because that gives us the base. And when we have the base, we know that we can add layers or we can multiply that base by the height. Now let's go ahead and plug in our numbers, our actual amount of feet, into this formula. And this will end up being our multiplication equation. So our length we know is 4, our width is 2, and our height is 2. Okay, and that is our multiplication equation. So let's go ahead and write that down on the multiplication line right here. Let's do 4 times 2 times 2, and that will give us the volume. So now we have, for our addition equation, we have 8 plus 8, and the multiplication equation, we have 4 times 2 times 2. And we know that 8 plus 8 is 16, right? And then we know that 4 times 2 is 8. And then 8 times 2, which would be the height, is 16. So we know that our volume is going to be 16, so we can write 16 on the bottom line, and we need to make sure that we have the feet cubed, which is the 3, or cubic feet. And the reasoning behind that 3, I'm going to do that in blue actually. The reason why we have that 3 there is because we're multiplying by 3 dimensions. We have a length, a width, and a height. So it's feet, right? We're still measuring with feet, but we're using cubic feet. We're multiplying by 3 dimensions, so that's why we have the little exponent of 3 behind feet. And I hope you guys use this video to help you, and you can rewatch it over and over if you need to. But I want you guys to use this video to help you answer numbers 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7 and 8 are on the back. If you have any questions, you can always ask your teachers or your parents. And remember to always give it your best. Don't give up when it gets difficult. Just ask your teacher and we'll help you out. And we're not going to give up. We're going to always give it our best. All right, have a great week.